This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
It's a beautiful thing, and there he is, Alex Chizhik, kind enough to join us now. How you doing, my friend? You doing all right?
Hello. As well, it's an interesting time. Yeah, hanging in there. Let's just say hanging in there.
I'm with you there.
Tough time, that's for sure.
Yeah,
how are
man.
you?
I'm doing good, my brother. I'm thanking you for 21% interest rate on Polygon. Just saying. I saw that, and it's like Avalanche, Polygon, or have you gone nuts? All right, 21%. I'll take it, baby. I'll take the staking. I try to explain to people, while the market's going sideways, some people might be complaining. Maybe there's a little bit of a dip. Some are complaining. But those of us that are staking, we're never really complaining because we understand the long term, and plus we continue to build, the wealth, let's just say, in a way.
For sure. And well, I'll let you take the show in whichever direction. I think the geopolitics of both in Canada and Russia and Ukraine are just kind of proving the case of crypto. And so we can talk about that. And
we will.
How, yeah. So you tell me, how do you want to start? I'm happy to be here. Thanks for hosting.
Having you here, Alex, I don't know where to start, because first I have to start with your emotions, my brother. First, we have to start with the humanity side of all of this.
Yeah.
How are you? How are you dealing with this? What kind of family, friends do you have there? What are your experiences in the last couple of weeks of watching something like this develop, and how safe are they? Are you in contact with your family? Talk to us.
Look, I'm fortunate enough we left the former Soviet Union very early in 91, and I'm Jewish. And so the former Soviet Union was very anti-Semitic. And so a lot of my family and friends and relatives have left. However, this brings up a lot of kind of raw emotions on many levels, right? One, innocent people are dying, both on the Ukrainian side. I want to just make sure that we get this right. So, and maybe this is an inconvenient truth for a lot of Americans, but Putin is a dangerous. He's a tyrant. He's dangerous. However, he's not without necessarily reason, and so that makes me a little bit optimistic that he won't actually use a nuke, although I'm actually quite afraid of this scenario playing out, because he's right now lost on many fronts. But let's go back. There are many innocent people dying, and maybe we can post some charities like UNICEF or Red Cross that are supporting both Ukrainians. And frankly, I've been we're communicating with friends, my parents' friends. My father is now in his mid 60s, and he showed me pictures literally a couple of days ago of him and his classmate, just like two guys in school in second or third grade, and then his classmate now at 65 has a rifle and is standing guard outside of Kiev. And it's and there's he's one of 40,000 volunteers that are of able age, which means that you're able to walk and do whatever. And they're Ukrainians are very proud, and they want to be more European, and not under the influence of Russia. But the geopolitics of this is very, very deep. Putin's grief and his bright red line is that he doesn't want Ukraine to be a NATO country. And that's and it's understandable, right? Like, this is where we need to step back as I think the Western media that's kind of going out and saying war. Look, if we had Canada join the Warsaw Pact and we had nuclear weapons or ballistic missiles in Toronto with a 5-minute flight from Washington, D.C. or New York, what the hell would we say? We would say there's no way Canada can join, right? And so this is the argument here. Like, can you imagine if we had
remember 60s missile crisis,
Cuba, exactly. Look what we did with Cuba. That was almost World War III, because we were like, no way can rockets be in Cuba. Now, keep in mind, if there are rockets in Kiev, it's actually closer to DC, New York, than rockets in Cuba would have been, because Cuba would have shot Miami. Sorry, guys. But, you know, they're not shooting the capital, so to speak, or it's a longer flight. Here, Kiev to Moscow is, I don't remember, like 100 miles, you know, 150 kilometers. It's nothing. It's a 5-minute flight less for a ballistic missile. And so for Putin, this is a serious red line, Now, that, having said that, what he's doing is,
well, but see, here's the thing about that. It's a serious red line in his mind, but in the rest of our minds,
for sure,
we're a democratic world. Ukraine wants to get away from monsters like Russia. They want to be peaceful like us.
Yeah.
They want to be democratic like us. So if they do have nuclear weapons, it's not like they're getting them so they can shoot at Russia. They're just getting them to defend themselves, just like any other country would.
Sure.
Russia's thinking evil because they're evil. But the Ukrainian people have proven that they want nothing to do with evil. They're trying to separate themselves from that. They want to become part of the European Union. They want to become part of NATO. They're trying their best to do all of these things. They're trying to be everything that Russia is not. And that's why it's a little twisted, that thinking, because it's really a war he's fighting in his own mind. Because the rest of us don't want anything to do with war, and we don't want anything to do with him anyways. Stay in your country, dude. Leave us alone. That's all.
No, for sure. For sure. And look, we should draw a distinction between, because there are a lot of Russian people that are truly against this war. One, there's a lot of propaganda. You know, yesterday he took down the 2 or 3 independent radio and TV stations in Russia that were actually saying the truth. And there's obviously a lot of propaganda there. So he has an iron grip on the country. I mean, many people still don't understand. I've seen footage, Russian TV footage, and they're showing the exact same scenes, saying these are Ukrainian rockets, right? Now, look, we technically don't know if they're Ukrainian or Russian. By all accounts that we're seeing, you can see Russian rockets firing, and he should have never gone into the country. He should have never taken Crimea. But also, Putin is, in Russia, money matters, power matters more. Okay, he's a don of the mafia, and he wants to be the don of all dons. And so, for him, the unification of the Soviet Union is important. And I don't think he actually wants to hold Ukraine. He just wants to install a puppet regime. And he thought it would be over quickly. It's not. The Ukrainian army hasn't given up. I'm obviously supportive of Ukrainians. And because of that, they're starting to commit serious war crimes now. They're shelling, which is what they did in Syria, by the way.
Right.
And they're shelling. Yeah, they're just shelling now civilian populations. And it's just an open. And look, you have Ukraine is a strong country, relatively speaking, but Russia has 200,000 military. Many of them, though, untrained. I mean, I've seen. I do want to say, look, as much as it's easy to look and say kind of good versus bad, you have these Russian soldiers that are kids, they're boys, and they're going in, just with 1980s, if not 1940s helmets and ill-equipped. There are footages of MREs, meals ready to eat.
Was it the Ukrainian prime minister that was reading the text from the dead Russian soldiers? You saw that?
Yeah.
And I explained a little bit of it yesterday, that some of these soldiers are sending back messages to their families, and they think they're in training, and they're like, "No, Mom, we're in a war, and I'm scared." And so, listen, like I put on Twitter the other day, Cuba, North Korea, Russia, Venezuela, you just live in a big jail is what you live in. That's what it is. It's a country, but it's just a giant jail. It's Escape from New York. It's just you're Snake Plissken, and you're just got to try to get the hell out of there. And that's kind of what it is. They're just big giant jails where they don't have the rights. They can't do the same things the rest of us do. So a lot of these people, the people in North Korea, they don't want anything to do with Kim Jong-un, just like the Russians don't want anything to do. Many of them don't want anything to do with Putin. A lot of those guys are in the military, don't want anything, but they have no choice, dude. We've been dealing with this because we have a lot of Cubans in South Florida. So we know what it's like that, when Fidel was around, he was manipulating everything and brainwashing them and lying to them and all that stuff. Man, I visited Cuba in the 80s 4 times with my dad to take stuff to them. And in the 80s, back when electronics and social media and all that stuff wasn't where it is now, that you can't hide anything now anymore. It's over with social media. But back then you still could. And, you know, I would go out with people there in Cuba and all that, and their heads were full of just all kinds of lies. And you can tell that Castro had a just a noose around their necks, and their brains were completely brainwashed. You know what I mean? Now it's changed as time has gone on, as the internet has evolved and social media, people are really seeing what's going on everywhere else in the world, and they're also seeing what's going on in your world at this moment. So there's a lot of people in all of these countries that they're just in the middle of a terrible situation, and they're just trying to survive, dude.
Which by the way brings us to crypto. And so this is let's start with Russia, Ukraine, and we can go to Canada. This is, you know, literally why crypto, and more specifically in this case, Bitcoin, right? Because it's not everything. Ukraine is getting, they got a lot of donations in Polkadot and Ethereum and Solana, a lot. Yeah. But Bitcoin is the only one that's truly government and censorship resistant, because all of the other ones, it's harder, but you could theoretically shut down or bring down in a major way. So Bitcoin,
explain to people, because
it's important, right?
Because it's a little bit more centralized than Bitcoin. Can you explain that to people? Because you know, people that don't follow crypto, they don't understand all this kind of stuff.
So this is important. We're going to get into technicalities, but if you guys if you're watching the news, let's talk about why crypto is important. Then let's talk about Bitcoin versus everything else. So when you're buying crypto, when you're investing in crypto, you understand the thesis behind it, okay? Because this is critically important. And we're going to blow away a lot of the FUD and the ESG FUD and other fear, uncertainty, and doubt that's FUD that's out there. And so, okay, the point of crypto is that you essentially own a piece of a unit of wealth. We won't call it money yet, because some cryptos I don't believe are money. But you own a piece of a unit of wealth that you could theoretically self-custody. Okay, so what does that mean? You can keep it on an exchange like Okcoin. But Okcoin, at the end of the day, we're centralized, and we will and do and always will comply with sanctions or any government laws in the countries that we operate. It's just not only good business practice, but it's the ethical thing to do. Now, you have self-custody wallets, software wallets that are in your browsers, hardware wallets like a Trezor or a Ledger, that you can pull crypto off of exchanges, centralized or decentralized, and keep them in a self-custody. Think of it as if you're a pirate and you have a lot of gold. You can bury your gold and have a map, you know, with this, my gold is buried there. The problem is you can't really use it. Or you can go in and unbury some of that treasure, take it with you, go in the market in the Netherlands. Back in the day, that was the big kind of the first stock exchange was in Holland, and you know, exchange it for whatever, and then keep the gold elsewhere. So people can keep crypto on exchanges, by all means, please do, or you can keep it in a wallet, transfer to an exchange it, bring it outside of an exchange into a wallet, right? So it involves another step. But crypto is a way to store wealth. So let's look at what's happening now, and then we'll go into why Bitcoin versus everything else. When we put sanctions on Russia, we did it in three tranches: on the citizens, on the central bank, and on Russian businesses. So when we stop Russian businesses from being able to buy and or sell Western parts, chips, planes, not energy yet, but other aspects, you're taking away their marketing ability. And so the Russian businesses plummet. When we put sanctions on the SWIFT system, banks and money, you're taking money away from big Russian banks. So when people are going in and saying, oh, shoot, the bank can no longer transact with the West, I want to pull dollars out, okay, or rubles out. The banks don't have a 1-for-1 reserve. For every dollar you put in, banks hold 10 cents in their coffers. And so you have a run on the banks and or selling of the ruble for dollars or for something that's not isolated from the world. And so individual people really get hit. And what we're seeing, and this is public, the whole industry is seeing, is a spike of Russians buying Bitcoin, Bitcoin coming out of Russia, individual people, not, by the way, governments. Bitcoin and crypto, to maybe fortunately in this day, so that people don't start coming in and banning it, although they can't really ban it. But Bitcoin and crypto, call it a $2.5 trillion market cap. That's not big enough to absorb a $700 billion move by the Russian government to put all of their assets into, call it, Bitcoin. It's not liquid enough. It's not big enough yet. At some point it will be. And so countries can't avoid sanctions today using crypto. It's too hard to buy all this Bitcoin and then exchange it and then move it in such volume. They will be able to probably later on, but not today. And so individuals are getting hurt. And for individuals, the Russian ruble, for the longest time used to be 30 rubles to $1. Okay. Russia went into Crimea in 2014. It went up to about 50 to 75. So it lost half of its value. And now, because of this, it plummeted from 75 to, I don't know what it is now, 105, 110.
Yeah.
So you went from 30 to, call it, 120, okay, just to make it the math easier. So you lost 75% of your purchasing power in a matter of 8 years. 75% of your wealth gone because of an act of a government. Okay, and the market says we don't want anything to do with this. We're pulling back, so we're selling the ruble, and so that's just. Can you imagine permanently losing 75% of your wealth? It's just insane. So for them, Bitcoin volatility is complete nonsense because they want to get into something that actually can hold value. So we're seeing that a recent price action is not just related to Russia, but there's a lot of it. Let me pause there because I do want to talk about Bitcoin. Why specifically Bitcoin? This is very, very important, and not even Ethereum, although I'm a big fan of Ethereum as well, and the other cryptos. But so should I go on, Orlando? Should I go there?
Oh yeah, hell yeah! I was just saying, go with Ethereum. I love Ethereum too, so I'm just saying.
I love Ethereum too. So
although Polygon is the monster that people just don't underestimate it.
Polygon is a big monster. That's right. Polygon is a scaling solution of Ethereum. Yeah. But let's talk a little bit about, when you invest in these things, you have to put on your big boy, big gal investor hat. And that means you have to understand how to evaluate these markets. Bitcoin is in a class of its own. The rest of crypto is in a different class. Not a better, not a worse class, just different. Bitcoin is property. The rest is a venture capital investment. Some will win, some won't win. There's Ethereum. Now, there have been many Ethereum killers: Polkadot, Avalanche, Cardano, Solana, Phantom, etc., etc., etc. Which one of these will win? Who knows? Maybe many, maybe none, maybe one, maybe three. We don't know. So you're making a bet on a lot of them to say, I don't know who's going to win, but someone will take a big lion's share. And if I make a bet maybe across 7 or 8 of them, and 2 or 3 hit and the rest go to 0, the hits will compensate for my, for my investment. It's a venture.
By the way, explain also in layman's terms the blockchains that we're talking about now, whether it's Polkadot or Avalanche or Ethereum, or all that, what they're building now is kind of like the internet, but then the inoperability and all that other stuff that's going to go on, because these things need to connect with each other in order for dApps and DEX to, what's it called? Smart contracts and everything to work, and all that, to be able to, move money and do transactions from one bridge to another. So kind of explain how this is kind of the early days of the next level of the internet, in other words.
So the internet is based on a protocol called TCP/IP. It's essentially a transfer protocol. Before we landed on TCP/IP, there were 8 or 9 other competing protocols, and the market kind of chose TCP/IP, and then everyone coalesced on this one thing. That's kind of like saying there's Ethereum, there's Polkadot, there's whatever, and we may coalesce on one. We may be, and I agree with you, there will be in a world of many of these. There'll be many chains. Okay, here's my little drawing on the camera of the chains.
That's
And
why I keep telling you guys about CKB, baby. CKB. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem, no problem. And on top of these chains, you're going to have abstraction layers. So think about the way any technology stack is, without going too deep, it works. You have kind of, let's talk about the cloud, right? You have infrastructure, AWS, Microsoft Azure, that literally hosts. Then you have different tools up on top of which you build on, developer tools. Then you have operating systems. And then you have apps. Let's call it Facebook. Within Facebook, you have like Reels or other. So you keep on building on top. You're stacking, right? And the same thing is going to happen in crypto. We're going to have many chains. There's going to be an abstraction layer on top of the chains, different dApps or DEXs on top of that, and so on and so on. We're going to have this. But I want to let me come. But all of these chains are these things called proof of stake chains. Ethereum is not. Ethereum is converting to a proof of stake. Proof of stake says that you're basically staking your money, you're putting money on the table, that the chain, the transactions in the chain are correct. Okay. And it's kind of like compound interest. The more money you have in the bank, the more interest you get on top of that money. The more money you have, the more interest you get, and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. Over time, proof of stake chains become more and more centralized because the big boys get the lion's share of the winnings. Okay. In Bitcoin, it's proof of work. So anyone has the exact same chance of winning, more or less. There are server farms and mining farms. Let's not touch those for a second.
It's another level.
Yeah, it's another level. But you pretty much anyone with a computer can go and mine in Bitcoin node now. Look, it's the chances of you alone winning the consensus for Bitcoin block are very small. That's how people get together. But it's the same chance. Okay, you use X electricity versus someone else who uses the same X electricity, you all get the same amount. So people can mine and have Bitcoin nodes all over the world. So Bitcoin will always be more decentralized by definition than any other crypto. Therefore, all of the most valuable parts, call it money, will flow to Bitcoin. Bitcoin will be the monetary layer. Doesn't mean it's the biggest layer. We have the market cap of oil is bigger than the market cap of gold. But Bitcoin will store the hard monetary layer of the internet, or as Michael Saylor says, the New York Manhattan city block. There's only so much Manhattan, but it's going to be the premier real estate forever. Everything else is like the buildings. You can have, if you own all the buildings in New York, I don't know, with all the businesses, it's probably more than the real estate, and that's okay. Bitcoin doesn't have to be the biggest at the end of the day, but it will be the one that's holding value. And that's why people, and it's government resistant, because there's no one central party that runs Bitcoin, and every other chain is much more centralized. Solana, for example, has 20 or so nodes. Great chain, fast, but if you take away 20 nodes,
it's not really decentralized. Actually, Solana. That's the one thing. That's always been the one thing with Solana that's made me nervous, that it's not really truly decentralized.
Not as much, of course. Yeah, exactly. Not as much as everyone else. And so Ethereum also, but Ethereum is so big now that it's very hard to take down Ethereum, right? Because it's decentralized over time. And so that's super important when you're thinking about chains and you think about investing in coins. Do you need decentralization, and which ones have it and which ones are government resistant? And the only one that's government resistant is Bitcoin. And so that's why Russians are buying Bitcoin, because they can take it, they can store their wealth. And by the way, Russia came up with a capital control today that says you cannot leave the country with more than $10,000 in foreign currency or any kind of foreign ownership. Here we go. Capital controls are starting because they don't want, the more foreign currency that leaves the country, the worse the ruble crashes. And it's a vicious cycle. Their economy is in a complete tailspin. Well, you know what you can leave with? Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, baby. Bitcoin.
Because you know what you can do? You don't have to leave with anything. You can call your friend in the US or wherever and say, here are my 12 words. And you move your money over without actually ever touching the internet. That's what people don't understand about crypto. This is the power of crypto. It saves ordinary people from governmental disasters, which will come. And now, look, we're saying, okay, well, Russia, second world, and we talk about Venezuela, kind of third
El
world.
Salvador, dude, please look at El Salvador, man.
Canada.
Colombia's got its issues. Brazil's got its issues.
Sure.
Oh, please, come on, it's coming. It's the inevitable. My Lord, we print money here like it's monopoly money. We've had people not working for months in this country. Yeah. And you think all those dollars that they printed, you think it's not going to hurt us? You'll see by the fourth quarter of this year how bad it's going to be. You think inflation is bad now? It's going to get worse as the year goes on because all this stuff is going to catch up to us, man. Now, explain to people, because you and I had a little conversation on this on the text line, that what's gone on in Canada, what's gone on in Ukraine, and what's going on in Russia that actually has sped up, because I really believe this consolidation period that we were in would have lasted a little longer. I think these incidents around the world have actually sped it up, and it's forced people to educate themselves quickly and going, really, I can do this, I can do that, I can protect my money, I can have more value, let me do it. So explain to people what you and I see and others that are in crypto, why actually this, while it's terrible, all the situations, they have actually, glorified or shined a light on the positives of Bitcoin and crypto.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, in the synopsis of what's happening in Canada, there were Canadian truckers that were protesting Canadian COVID requirements, vaccination requirements. Doesn't matter whether you agree with them or not. They were protesting them, and they were blocking, certain streets and so on. And so Justin Trudeau and his cabinet expanded the emergency powers that they have under the Emergency Terrorism Act to basically be able to freeze anyone's financial assets without a court order. And which to me is a blatant misstep. Whether I agree with Trudeau or not, whether I would have voted with Trudeau or not, it doesn't matter. You can be the biggest Trudeau fan, but if you're honest with yourself and you can put the hubris aside, that is a huge violation of freedom in a democracy. Even the mafia, gets served a court order before their assets are frozen. So for regular citizens who've donated $100 to these truckers, for them to have their money frozen because they've donated is insanity. And so what this does is this is Canada. These are the, nice, fun, soft, pleasant Canadians that we all know and love, north of our border, freedom-loving country that's now saying, hey, if you're going against, or you're supporting people who don't share the same opinion as the government does in this case, we can freeze your financial assets. Again, freezing to me is not great. Freezing without a court order is terrible. It's abysmal, because in any democracy, the free press and a free judiciary have to exist for the democracy to work. Okay, and you cannot take that. You cannot just take one away. And so this is a huge case for crypto, right? Because what you can say is, okay, you can freeze, and they try to freeze some crypto wallets. There was an unchecked wallet that had a famous letter basically saying, you don't understand how crypto works. We can't freeze accounts. We don't know who they are. And literally when they wrote, like, when the Canadian dollar goes to zero, we'll be here to serve you as well. And
Right.
Ted Cruz read this at the CPAC in the US, which is the Conservative Political Action Committee conference. And so it just goes to show that with crypto, when you do peer-to-peer transactions, people cannot take that crypto away from you. They cannot take your Bitcoin and ETH or whatever away from you whenever they feel like it. Hugely powerful case. And I agree with you. I disagree with you a little on inflation. I think I do think it will come down, just because when you've hit it so high and it still stays high, the changes look like there's no change, even though the inflation is high. But
you don't think as the Feds now start to raise the rates, it's going to? You think so? Okay, all right. I trust you. I trust you.
It's more of accounting. It's not like the bread in the stores are gonna get cheaper. If bread was $5 before, call it, and it's $10 now, and it's $10 at the end of the year, it looks like double inflation right now from last year, but 10 to 10 is 0. It doesn't mean the prices are coming down. It just looks like it's no additional inflation. You know what I mean? So you're right in that inflation is here to stay. It's sticky. It's going to look like there's no more additional inflation, so it's coming down, but it's not really coming down. So anyway, this is just like accounting semantics, if you will. But
right.
yeah. But the point is that we're in a situation where it's a troubling situation, and especially if you're getting close to retirement, it's for you people, young folks like you and me, Orlando, we have some time to go. If you're getting close to retirement, it's a turbulent time and a turbulent market, and if the Fed increases rates too much, we're going to go into a recession.
Yeah,
which is yeah, exactly. I'm afraid of that as well. That's not good. And then we have war. The worst is stagflation, where there's inflation that's sticky, right? Even though on paper it could look like there's not a lot, and there's no growth in the economy. Because remember, if you have high growth in the economy, inflation theoretically doesn't matter. It does matter, but if you have growth that outpaces inflation, it could be okay. It could be
you're
okay.
all right. Yeah.
That doesn't really work. Okay, that doesn't really happen very often. Real growth. So
by the way, I was going to ask you, do you agree that these tragic events that have happened have juiced the market, right? Because look, none of us know when something's going to bottom or when something's going to top. Anybody that tells you that, they're lying to you, okay? Because none of us really know. But you almost kind of get the feeling that, man, this consolidation period might have lasted a little longer, which, by the way, I was hoping it lasted a little longer so I could try to get closer to a Bitcoin, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, having said all that, you kind of feel that this was a little bit of a steroid jolt to crypto?
For sure. I think so. Look, the outside chance that Russia tries to go into Bitcoin, and then Europe and the US come out with really hard regulations against crypto, which would hurt crypto a lot. It won't stop it. In the long run, Bitcoin is still here to stay because you literally cannot stop it.
What I hope, by the way, the government realizes, and I think there are some people in the government that do understand this. This is technology. We're a country that usually is ahead of the curve on everything.
Exactly.
What we need to do is actually embrace it and take advantage of it and be the leaders of the world in crypto. We have to use the right attitude, because if you use the wrong attitude, all you're going to do is open up the doors for the rest of the world to get way ahead of you on it. And that would be a monster mistake.
Well, I completely agree, and I believe the U.S. actually will. We're kind of smart about these things collectively, even though we have some politicians that aren't. But it's kind of like in the 80s.
Can I throw the? And I don't mean to mention somebody else, but you know who Biden's biggest donor is? Do you know
individually? No,
yeah.
Tell me who.
Sam Friedman.
Who?
Friedman.
Sam.
FTX.
Yes.
The guy that owns FTX, right here where the Miami Heat play, the FTX arena.
Yeah.
He's the biggest donor to Biden. Do you think all this FUD that they're throwing out, in the end, it'll all work out, bro?
Well, look, here's why it will work out, because it's a technology, and it's kind of like what in the 60s, the Russians, the USSR, beat the US to space. They send the first man to space. What do we say? We're like, oh, they beat us to space, ban space. Like, do we just ban going to space? No, we said we're getting our shit together and we're gonna go, right? So there are enough politicians in the U.S. There are some that are just, I won't mention any names, so that to keep this kind of politically
correct. That's Warren.
I didn't. I plead the fifth. But yeah, she's a confusing one, because she spent her whole career fighting banks, and if anything helps fight the banks, it's this. So either she's just uneducated by her staffers, or there's something I don't know. I'll refrain from guessing of things that I don't know, but I will say that there are enough politicians on both sides of the aisle here and now starting to come out in the UK. Today, actually, there was a UK minister that said, look, this is happening with or without us, might as well be with us. Ukraine is getting millions of donations.
20 million we've hit in
20
Ukraine.
million as of yesterday.
20 million of crypto. And by the way, Gavin Wood. Yeah. You, sir, are a stud because you created the DAO for Ukraine. God bless you, sir. Great job by you. I know most people have no idea what I just said, but you know what I'm talking about. So that's look it up,
They're
folks.
raising money for Ukraine. And government Ukrainian government openly is saying, here's a big, like, who would have thought a year ago, last year, that a government would be like, here's my Bitcoin wallet, here's my Ethereum wallet, parenthesis, Ethereum, USDT, USDC, it's kind of, here's my Polkadot wallet, send money, and by the way, Ukraine was the fourth biggest crypto bull, if you will, country in the world. They were with it. They were, even before the war, they were all about mining what's happening there. Development is happening there. I mean, good. They're modernizing the country. So, in some ways, so was Russia. A lot of mining was happening in Russia, and a lot of development was happening in Russia, which is just unfortunate along many, many lines. Everything is just all about this. Is kind of
it's all FUD because you hear Russia say no and then yes, and then it's like China. All this crap, and it's like, dude, VeChain's Chinese. Relax. They're in a crypto. Give me a break, bro. But VeChain's all over the damn country, everywhere. Every Walmart, Purdue Chicken, Range Rover, Louis Vuitton. Get the hell out of here. Do your homework. Don't believe the FUD. Come on. Give me a break.
I love it. I love it.
By the way, I'm a huge Polkadot guy. I think the parachains and everything, I think it's going to, and I think it's been at a monster bargain here the last few weeks. And if you bought it at 15, 16, 17, 18 bucks, God bless you, dude. And stake it on Okcoin on top of all of that, dude.
There we go. Stake it on Okcoin.
Damn right, dude. I've got my Polkadot staked and I'm earning, but I am huge on Polkadot. I love it, dude. And after what Gavin did, I really want them to succeed. You know what I mean? Because I actually think several of these blockchains are going to end up succeeding because they're all going to present something different. And I think the inoperability part is the one where you can also make some money now. Like I'm a big proponent of CKB. I'm investing in CKB because I believe on the Cardano blockchain, they're going to be the main culprit for all of that to bring it together. So, I just think it's just a matter of educating and doing your homework. By the way, tell them about the podcast that you do a great job of educating folks.
The Okcoin podcast?
Yes.
So we have Okcoin. Well, I do a couple. I have one.
You have to, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Tell them about.
So mine is called Hardcore Finance. Actually, with all this insanity, I haven't recorded one in a month or so, but me and the head of growth for Okcoin, we've been doing one on wealth management. So Hardcore Finance. And the other one is Okcoin Live, which we do every Friday. We bring in a whole bunch of guests. So you can go to okcoin.com and you can find us on YouTube, Okcoin Live, where we talk about.
I retweet it all the time, by the way, on our Twitter page. We retweet it every Friday. So
thank you. Hats off. When we talk about the latest and greatest, specifically in crypto, bring in guests and talk about any topic from going deep into DeFi, decentralized finance, to taxes, to others. So tune in. This is an interesting point in humanity where a lot of the reasons why the OGs got into crypto, inflation, government spending, wars, are becoming true, unfortunately. But I guess in some very terrible way, proving the whole thesis behind crypto. Regardless of your age or where you are in your career, but specifically if you're younger, avoiding crypto and not looking into crypto in a serious, educated way is is a miss of a lifetime. It's like if you're standing in one of those machines, that it's one of those glass machines, and there's dollars flying in the air because
Right.
they're blowing dollars, and all you have to do is grab them. And when I say dollars, it's personal wealth, but it's also education and career, and and just having a growth mindset, value, or if you're in a different country, being able to store your wealth or escape with wealth. It's like you're standing there and saying, like crossing arms, saying, no, I'm not going to go out and grab it. It's a grab it. It's in front of you. It's the biggest opportunity of probably, for sure, of our generation, but I think way beyond generations. This is probably the biggest opportunity of reshaping the financial structure in the last 1,000 years. Easily.
And by the way, this happens in this all walks of life. Even really smart investors have no idea. And it's fun for us because, like, I watch a Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from The Shark, who hated crypto, couldn't stand it, crapped on it every chance he got. Now he's the biggest bull out there. He is the biggest supporter of it. He's investing in stocks that are mining crypto. He's investing in all kinds of crypto because he educated himself and he understood what the hell is happening in this world and where we're going. So don't think that it's you that, oh, okay, well, I'm just a regular working stiff. No, this happens to everybody, dude. Everybody. Warren Green, what is it? Greenspan, whatever, the old guy, what's his name?
Alan Greenspan?
No, not Greenspan, the other guy, Warren Buffett. He's finally coming around, and he was a lot of these old guys like Charlie Munger or whatever. I mean, it's like, dude, I get it. You're a dinosaur and you made it in one way and that's the only way. But it's the smartest people in the world still don't get it. And only because they've closed their minds to it.
Yeah.
Once you open your mind and you understand it, you will then pick up the logic behind it. And that's it. We've been dealing in digital currency forever. They're called credit cards and checks and all kinds of other types of credit that we've had. It's a different kind of way of doing it, and it's the way we're going to do it in the future.
Exactly. And most people, I think, to your point, in the beginning misunderstand it. Look, it kind of takes a bit of humble pie. When I first got into it, and I'm not trying to brag, I went to one of the top MBA programs in the nation, in the world. My whole education has been in finance, and when I first got into it, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And you have to kind of swallow your pride when you see kids that are 15, 16 inventing new financial models that you, or in this case me, who had the top education and then went to the best consulting company in the world, was kind of like, this doesn't make any sense. But if you're growth minded, you have a growth mindset, and you spend a little bit of time looking into this, the world opens up to you. And once you're ready, it's kind of like, do you remember when you were a kid? Did you ever see those like magic eye books when it's like a pattern, you move it close to your face and you move it away and a 3D image comes up?
Yeah. I remember that, of course.
It's the same thing. It's like this noise, and you move and you're like, oh my God, there's a ship. And once you see it, you can't unsee it anymore.
Right.
Ken Griffin, who's the CEO of Citadel, which is one of the biggest financial companies in the world, was always skeptical. I think today or yesterday came out and he was doing an interview. It was like, hey, I was skeptical for a long time, but I was wrong. Everyone who studies it with an open mindset, like you said, after enough time says, oh my God, I see it now and there's no going back.
Right.
The top managers, everyone, Kevin O'Leary was this, Ken Griffin was this, Ray Dalio was the biggest. Biggest hedge fund, was always against it. Now is like, you know what? It belongs. And
JP Morgan didn't want anything to do with it. And all they're doing now is increasing their Bitcoin balance for their balance sheet for all their investors. And it just keeps going up and up and up. Oh, no, 1%. No, it's 2%. Well, maybe 5%. Because they're realizing what the hell's going on. So that's JP Morgan. Okay.
Goldman Sachs. I mean, all of these guys.
Yeah.
Everyone gets it now. And so for the listeners, this is a very urgent call for you guys to, hopefully you do with Okcoin, but if not, just do it for yourself. Do it in any exchange. Go learn about it. There are many. There's a lot of literature on it. Okcoin.com. We have a lot of literature on it where you can just read and get involved and even get some bonuses to start trading and investing. Don't miss a chance.
Use
of
the link below for 20. We share $20 free in Bitcoin. The link is below right here on our YouTube page.
There we go. There's the link. But it's a chance of a lifetime. Truly a chance of a lifetime. Not a get-rich-quick scheme. You have to know what you're doing, and you could lose a lot of money. But if you play it right, and the safest way of playing it right is buying a little bit each week. You buy $100 worth a week, a month, a year, doesn't matter. It's called DCA, dollar cost averaging. You just buy a little bit each week, $10 a week. Put your savings in. Goes up.
Just had a discussion with my buddy. And he's all into the TNA and all that. And gentlemen, we're not talking about that other TNA, technical analysis. So anyway, he's in all the TNA. Well, no, dude, I'm going to wait till it drops to 30, 32, 33. I'm like, dude, it's at 35 right now. You didn't buy it at 38. You didn't buy it at 37 because that's what I did. I broke my money down, bought a little at 38, bought a little more at 37, bought a little more at 36, got a little more at 35. It hit 34. I didn't get it at 34. Damn it. But anyway, I got her, and then now it's up. And so I call him to bug him. I go, so, hey, bro, how'd you do buying it at 30 and 33? And he just like effed me and like, yeah, F you, this, that, get out of here. And I go, dollar cost average.
Exactly.
Always dollar. Once we crossed the 42 mark, I started telling everybody it's Bitcoin time. It's Bitcoin time. Buy a little bit, as much as you can. And if it keeps going down, keep buying. Do not wait. Why? Because earlier in this conversation, we just said it. You never know when the bottom is, and you never know when the top is. And I'll tell you this, and you know it. We're going to get to a point where you're never going to see 30s again, and you're never going to see 40s again with Bitcoin. So this might be the last boom that maybe it goes up to 80 and it comes back down, but it'll never come back down to 30 again. And you had your opportunity. And it's going to happen because the highs are going to get higher and the lows are going to get higher. And as that happens, those opportunities, you'll never see them again, and you'll regret it every time that you didn't DCA.
Exactly. Unless you're a professional trader, which very few of us are. I've been in the industry for years, and I'm a terrible trader, even though I think I'm better than probably 95% of people out there. And that's saying a lot that I'm terrible, being better than most people. The point is just DCA and have a 5 to 10 year horizon. The market will go up and down. It's a new asset. It's still young. It's like a little, it was a toddler. Now it's, like a fifth grader, right? You can knock it down easily. You can get it up. But this fifth grader is going to turn into a,
LeBron James.
Exactly. It's going to turn into LeBron James sooner or later. And so you just need to know where it's going, and it's going there because
look how big and strong the fifth grader is right now.
Yeah, exactly. Think about it. Actually, this is very, very true. Think about what's happening, right? The world is on the brink of World War III. Okay. Bitcoin is completely oversold. Doesn't mean it can't go down more, but it's pretty oversold right now. We are about to hike rates 7 times. We're thinking about hitting stagflation, which economically it's like a death spiral economically. And Bitcoin was holding strong at 35. This is a pressure test, a stress test for the asset, and it's doing pretty damn good. Again, Bitcoin, remember, was less than a dollar 10 years ago, and it's at 35,000 now and holding. And if you told people 10 years ago that, hey, what you're going to buy for $1 is going to go to 35,000, they would have, this would have been the biggest dream. And if you told them at 35,000, people would be panicking, and that it would be oversold, they wouldn't believe you if I don't know. I don't know. So the point is, and sometime in 5 years, we're going to be like, man, do you remember how cheap it was at 35,000? Who was that, jerk or poor person who was waiting for 34 and didn't get in when it's at 500? And it will get there. It's just a matter of time. We don't know when, but it will. And it will, because we're going to have wars, because we're going to have inflation, because it's too easy to print money. By the way, as of 2 hours, we're talking now, it's 1:20, March 2nd. I think 2 hours ago, the chairman of the Fed came out and said that there doesn't have to necessarily be only one reserve currency of the world. Okay. And by the way, I don't think he was talking necessarily about Bitcoin. He was talking about, I think, a basket of other currencies, but it doesn't matter. As once you give credence to an idea that the US dollar doesn't have to be the only reserve currency, that's it, right? It opens up the possibilities. And I'll say the last thing, and I'll get off my soapbox about Bitcoin. To bring it all the way back to what we were talking about. We sit here in the US and we value our freedom, and we value our, we think our values are correct, right? And we think we have more or less we have acceptance, more or less we protect individual freedoms, and so on and so forth. We've tried to propagate our values onto the rest of the world. We tried doing it during the Cold War through a proxy, Vietnam, Korea, didn't really work. We tried doing it through hot wars, Iraq, Afghanistan, didn't really work. The whole world is short US dollars. The whole world wants to buy US dollars because it's an option. It's a piece of our values and our economy. In all of the other countries, most of the other countries, there are capital controls for dollars. Okay. The way to get dollars, by the way, to other countries that don't say, oh, more than $10,000 you can't walk out with, is through stable coins. Everything in crypto, Bitcoin to USDT, Bitcoin to USDC, there are stable coins in crypto, or DAIs or Fraxes. There are many of these things. The best way to export our values to the world without shedding blood is through crypto. Stable coins in this case, and then Bitcoin being the ultimate settlement layer of everything, because you're holding your wealth, because the USDT is still tied to the dollar, which is still tied to inflation. But so they go hand in hand. Bitcoin, store wealth, USDT or USDC as a way to export our values without shedding blood. No wars, no more conflicts, and people will be able to identify with American values. And then the other assets are there as more of a speculative but conscientious investment into a world, into a better Web3 world. And I think that's my overall thesis. And once you understand those three parts, and you believe fundamentally what makes our country strong is the fact that it's anti-fragile. There's a by design, there's a weaker central government and a stronger state and local government. We are a decentralized nation, and Bitcoin and crypto are decentralized assets that are able to withstand shocks to the system the exact same way the US is able to withstand shocks to its system and still stand as a shining democracy, that shining, city on the hill that Reagan always talked about. So if you are an American patriot and you're not looking at crypto in the exact same light as you're looking at the US, I love it, then you're just completely missing the ball.
That's right. There you go. Alex Chizhik, by the way, he is the head of listings for Okcoin. We got the link below. If you want to start right there, you can get $20. We share $20 free of Bitcoin. You can check it out there at Okcoin and stake all kinds of great coins and get incredible rates on staking your coins. Alex, my brother, I hope the next time we talk, the war is over, Ukraine is free, democratic, and decoupled. As Bitcoin is decoupling from the markets now, I hope that Ukraine is finally completely decoupled from that pig in Russia, my friend. And thank you, as always, for taking some time. Always look forward to having you on again and having a great conversation.
Thanks, Orlando. Appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, my friend. You got it. Alex Chizhik.